our two guests here, the Benders, Angela and Greg. If you would come up and join us.
Yeah!
Down low.
Hey, happy several days after Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Woo!
We're super glad you're here.
We are super
glad we go hang out at Britt's house after this.
Yeah.
So that's going to be fun.
Woo. If people do not have directions, I have one piece of paper up here, so take a picture of it. Oh, they're in back?
Oh, we got directions in the back.
Okay, we got multiples, because you were thinking. Excellent. super excellent, because he's Britt and he's amazing.
We had another fantastic, very traditional Thanksgiving dinner at our house.
We did. Okay, so we have attempted to make great turkeys. Some of you don't know this, for like years and years and years. Our entire married life, we've tried to make great turkeys, and they
suck.
Yeah, totally do. And so finally, 2 years ago, we made a turkey, and it was
the best turkey ever.
The best turkey ever. And I realized, eating the best turkey of ever, I don't think I like turkey. Like,
I do like turkey, but
I think I just don't like turkey. Like, I go, it's not going to get any better than the meal we're eating right now, and I don't think I like it. So we changed our whole menu.
Yeah. Steak, king crab legs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we were like, forget the turkey. We want to do some crab.
I mean, I like turkey, but I like steak and king crab legs better.
Right? It's better. Yeah.
Complain about me listening to Christmas music before Thanksgiving and you eat steak and crab legs.
Oh, yes.
I know,
don't listen to us. You know what music Peppernut is listening to right now. Our little dog, Peppernut.
Our dog listens to Christmas music all year round because worship music stresses her out. Just so you know. It's a little bit too E minor. Is that what the note is? It's like always yearning. Thank you, right? Yeah, that like stresses her out, so she listens to joyful Christmas music instead. So I was at Bethel a couple of years ago, and they had healing rooms. Anybody heard of or been to the healing rooms at Bethel? Kind of cool, right? And so I love the gal who like takes you through. So on the weekend that I was there, there was 5,000 people who received individual prayer in 3 hours. Like that tells you how many teams they have of people who are available to lay hands on you and pray. And before you go in, they do this little entry thing where they have this hallway lined with chairs. Did you guys have this? And so you sit in the chairs and they give you a little quick orientation. And the gal that we had her voice just kind of up like this. And she said, you know, sometimes people who come here, you know, they sometimes receive a healing before they've even come into the healing rooms and ever gotten prayed for. So I'd just like you to check yourself and see if you've already had a healing. And so people were like checking themselves. And I was like going, that's hilarious. And then a guy goes, I think I've already been healed. And she's like, that's awesome. Does anybody else feel anything? Now, I'm going to tell you, I was totally opposed to admitting that I had this really weird sensation happening to me from the time she started talking. And it was like this, like somebody had dropped like oil on top of my head, and it was just kind of going down through my whole body. And it felt like liquid love is the only way I can explain it. Like my whole body was being saturated with a physical sensation of love. But I kind of didn't want to admit this. I don't know why would I not want to admit this? I don't know what's wrong with me, but at that moment I didn't want to do it. And so she goes, well, is there anyone at all? You know how your heart's like pounding, going like, please don't call on me. Gregory Thomas from Arizona. Anyway, so I didn't say anything, and somebody else kind of raised their hand. They said, well, I don't know how to describe this, but I'm having this funny sensation of like liquid pouring over me from like my head down to my feet, and the only way I can explain it is like liquid love. I was like, no. And at that point, you could see several. Now, I have to admit to you that I'm also one of these people who I always want to feel the Lord physically. I want those experiences, and then I never am. I'm never, ever. If everyone is all like totally experiencing the Lord's presence, I'm always that person sitting there going, I don't know what to do with the rest of you. Like, seriously, don't know. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But I was actually feeling this. And when he said the word liquid love, like a whole bunch of people just kind of like melted in their chairs. And, right? And they could feel this same sensation that I was feeling. And so it's funny, I had totally forgotten about this experience until last Sunday. And I was talking to the Lord about what our community's about and what I want. And he said, so what you're saying is you want people to experience me physically, and you want them to experience healings before we even have to talk about it, and you want that for this space. And he goes, so it's time for you to release that. And I was like, oh, right, that's my job. So I have been praying about that this week, and I just wondered if anybody has already experienced a healing. Carrie's trying. Okay, go ahead. That's fun.
Because you prayed for me for my tennis elbow, right?
Yeah.
And it's not mine. I don't receive that. Anyway, pray for elbow problem.
Yeah.
And and I've been playing for a week and totally, no problem. I still am wearing the brace just but I love playing tennis, and I was really getting bummed because it was getting worse and worse, and lots of pain where I couldn't even hold a glass.
Hey, that is really funny because that just happened to me 2 weeks ago. Like, I have been having elbow pain, and like I can pull things up, but like picking up a coffee cup is like I'm dying. Like picking up a coffee cup, I even told Greg like this weekend I was in pain like all 24/7. I was even waking up from it. So anyway, I was going game on, Lord, with that.
Yeah.
And so I will just say that it feels better right now than it has felt in a while. So interestingly enough, I don't know where my cup went. I set my stuff down everywhere. I have no idea where it is, but I was going to test it by lifting up a cup. But that's funny. I forgot it was the same. So anyway,
so I just say,
right?
More,
right?
Do it.
So fun. Okay, anyone else? Ann has something. Kristen? Yep.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry. I got the mic first. So last week we prayed that I would have this immediate healing, and God told you that I had to do the self-care, which I was a little bit annoyed by because I do the self-care. Like, I'm really good at that, and he's never just healed me just because. And so I was a little bit mad. But anyway, I was like, okay, God, and I got a pillow. It took me 3 pillows to find a good pillow. Found one. And my neck and my hurting again this week, and I was like, okay, scheduled a massage, and I'm going for a chiropractor appointment tomorrow, and but still just really annoyed about this stupid shoulder that hurts because I carried my 3-year-old on my shoulders for like 20 minutes. And like my neck, since you've been talking, my neck doesn't hurt anymore, and my shoulder, like I tested it like this, and I was like, oh yeah, nope, still hurts. And then I just tested it again, and it is like 100 times better.
Yay. Yay. That's super fun. I was actually just thinking of you and I'm going after that. And can I just clarify, by the way, that I was like, I'm totally standing for an immediate healing, and don't forget to do self-care when you get a healing. So can we just clarify that? Yeah. Okay, good. Because sometimes we get immediate healing and we forget to take care of ourselves. So I'm actually praying for that for weight loss. But anywho, okay.
So just as I was leaving to come to our meeting today, a very special lady that works at the house where I live, her name's Annette. For the last month, we've been under the scare of breast cancer for her. And they'd already seen on one of the reports something that had the measurement of 10, which I don't know what the measurement was exactly, but it was like a big thing, and they were looking at doing surgery and some chemotherapy and blah, blah. And for some reason, we just couldn't get what she needed for the MRI, and she finally got the MRI, and we got the report last night, and she just told it to me as I was leaving. The MRI shows that it's only a 1, and she just needs the simplest procedure to take care of it. And I completely melted when she said that, because when we had been praying for her, the whole time we were praying for her, I wanted to believe. I was so desperately wanting to believe for her healing. And I kept saying, Lord, I don't know if I can trust you in this. She trusts you so much. If you don't show up big here, I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. And he showed up big. And I was just so overcome because I felt like her healing was for my believing. It was like she already believed. She didn't have to believe more. I was so it was phenomenal. I walked away. I was in the driveway, and she's telling me, I'm like, the whole drive over here, I'm just overcome with the reality that God heard and he poured out, and it was full of grace, and there was nothing that she did to make herself more worthy of his love. He just did it.
Right. Cool. Thank you. DJ, you had something? Okay. Yay. Okay. So, in this conversation of healing, we've opened up a can of worms. And it's perfect with Job, and it's perfect because we're going to talk about who is God as a healer and who are we as agents on the earth, and what about evil and what about good, and what is he doing in healings, and who are we in the participation of the process of healing. So as we get started in that, we are going to release our kids to be champions and game changers, to be kings and queens in the earth, to go and have fun. So I'm going to release you, kiddos. Take your papers with you, with Miss Christy and Miss Jocelyn.
Elliot, that means you too. I know you gave me the look like, does that mean me?
Genevieve, your picture's awesome. You can finish it when you come back in, okay? When we do prophetic practice. So we are in Job. If you do not have a copy of Job, what we'd like to do is make sure you have a copy because you're going to need it for tonight. So do we have, where
Do
are
we
our
have
extra
any more
copies?
copies?
Yeah, we have extra copies.
We have extra
Do you
copies?
know-
All of them that were in the tote.
Oh, you put all of them out that were in the tote? Okay, so I think we have an extra one here because you guys have one.
There are some on the table.
Okay, some on the tables. Do you guys have one? I think you'll need one. Does everybody have access to a copy of Job? Okay.
Or as it was pronounced at the time, job.
Yeah, not so much, but excellent.
Who knows?
Who knows?
It changes.
It wasn't really in English, so it's hard to say. I'm gonna.
That's like when they say Celtics, they say Celtics.
Right? Thank you. I'm going to take a moment and just pray. Oh, Papa, Holy Spirit, you are a genius. Jesus, you are the very best friend I could ever have. Father, you are loving and kind and good, and I am so grateful for the three of you. I say yes to your plans for us tonight. I say yes to your presence, to your wisdom, to your affirmation, to your goodness. Life is not so much about finding answers as it is discovering how to ask really good questions and then engaging in the process of the relationship that releases answers. So Lord, help us to move into the place of relationship that will set us up for the conversations you want to have with us over the next couple of months. Amen. So Job is, I feel like, one of the most challenging books.
This is week 3, right?
This is week 3.
Week 3.
And we're, ish, right? I think week 3-ish. Week 3, I don't know, anyway. And we are in Job 2. And I'm praying about how we just jump in, okay? So give me just a moment. Because we have kind of had a little cool thing happen, which is that God has seen Satan roaming the earth, evil roaming the earth freely. And he has said to evil, "Have you considered my servant Job?" So his response to evil roaming freely in the earth is, "Have you considered my servant who's upright and blameless?" And evil's response is, "The only reason that Job honors you is because you bless him." So it's all really based on a contractual relationship that you have, that he loves you because you bless him and you protect him, you put a hedge around him. And God's response is, "Well, I'll let this be tested out. I'll let this be tested out." And we know what happens, which is all of his possessions and his family, except for his wife, are harmed. And now Job has had a response to that, which is that God is somehow a part of this. This didn't just happen to me. God is connected with this. And then, again, the sons of God, and we've covered that area, that sons of God, doesn't mean humanity. in Job. It means more likely fallen angels. It has been Ha Elohim, and it is talking about meaning the sons of gods. And then present themselves before the Lord, which is Yahweh. So the sons of gods present themselves before one God, and Satan comes before him. And he's again roaming to and from about the earth. And he says, in response to evil roaming again freely on the earth, have you considered my servant Job? Which could be symbolized as all of humanity. In response to evil roaming about the earth, have you considered humanity? And he says, well, the only reason that happens is because you don't let the harm come immediately onto him. And so there's a really interesting theology right in this little piece here, which is that it says that God says that Satan incited him against Job. Anybody read that part and it super annoyed them? Please tell me that it did, right? Because if that were true, if Satan were able to incite God, God's really the servant of Satan. He is at the beck and call of the accusations of Satan. So we have to ask ourselves, is that really true? Did he really get incited against, or did evil get set up? Did evil get set up? Is this a move of God to set evil up for a contest in the earth? And I think it's a very strong possibility. So we know then that Job is then challenged in a more personal way, and only his life is held by the Lord. And so Satan went out from the presence of the Lord, and he struck Job. We're at verse 7. He struck Job with painful boils from the sole of his foot to the crown of his head, and took for him and Job took for himself a potsherd with which to scrape himself while he sat in the midst of ashes. And what does ashes represent? Humanity. It's the symbolism for humanity. So this one character sat in the midst of humanity and scraped at the harm that had come upon him. It's interesting, that, right? The beautiful poetry and the symbolism that's here. And then his wife said to him, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." And he said to her, "You speak as one of the foolish women speak." Now, foolish represents what? Pride and foolish both have symbolic meanings that are alluded to throughout Job and Proverbs. Anybody remember what foolish and pride represented? Can I get water? Do you mind?
Is that your cup?
I don't think so. That's why I thought it was yours. Oh, is it yours? Excellent. I could totally drink out of that one. Yeah, fallen angels. So foolish and pride is always symbolic of fallen angels. So what he's saying is to his wife, you speak as one of those who have come under the influence of fallen angels. Interesting, right? Shall we indeed accept good from God but not accept adversity? So Job is saying there is something at this that is God's fault. And in this, Job did not sin with his lips. So Job is going, God is ultimately responsible for the evil that's roaming the earth. Interesting, because we have, right? Any of you grown up in the tradition, which is, they have said this phrase. How many of us have said this? God is in control. And the question that we will continue is he? Is he? Is he in control, or is he in charge? Who's in control? Who's in charge? So those you might want to write, those are questions. I'm not here to give answers. I'll give you some thoughts, some of my thoughts, but we'll not answer that quite yet. And then enters Job's friends. Now again, remember, all these headings were not in the ancient documents. These are man-made headings. So I would just encourage you to take a Sharpie and mark them out, because they're like foreshadowing, and they make you think in line with the heading, which is theologically loaded. So it kind of it changes your thinking about what's coming up next. And so Job's 3 friends heard of his adversity that had come upon him, and they each came from his own place. Eliphaz, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shunite, and Zophar, the Naamathite, and they had made an appointment together to come and mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they had raised their eyes from afar, they did not recognize him, and they lifted their voices and they wept. And each one of them tore their robe, and they sprinkled dust on their head toward heaven. Anybody know what that was anciently symbolic of? Tearing your robe and sprinkling dust? Surely, mourning. It was a formal type of mourning. Tearing your robes and sprinkling dust on your head. Isn't it interesting? Dust also represents humanity. So you're literally putting death upon you. The death of, you're symbolizing the powerlessness of humanity over death by sprinkling dust on your head. And so they sat down with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his grief was great. So I don't know about you, but any of you who have been with a family member or a friend who has suffered or is in a terrible situation, right? And so you go to be with them. And can you imagine being with them, sitting in that place of can you feel that, I have sat with people where the despair was so great, it literally rolled over me like a wave. Where you almost feel tumbled by the anxiety and the fear and the grief and the terror and the panic and the sorrow and the anger and the frustration. But I have never sat with anyone day and night for 7 days. And not said a word. Because you know what we have a tendency to do? What do we have a tendency to do? So just fix it. Yeah, fix it. So we want our words to make it what?
Not me. I listen.
This is true.
I don't try and fix anything.
Well,
I just listen.
That's the only answer.
And after you're done, I say, thank you for sharing.
You do say that. You do say that. My great illustration. Anybody seen White Men Can't Jump? Probably the most cussing movie on the planet ever. Have you guys
seen that.
No, but I have given you the illustration from White Men Can't Jump where she's like, hey, I'm thirsty. You know this one, right? She's like, I'm thirsty. He's like, oh, I got to get her a cup of water. And she goes, I don't want you to get me a cup of water. I just want you to empathize with my thirstiness. Don't fix it. I'm just sharing how I feel. So when he's trying to win her back, he sings a song and he goes, I will not get you a cup of water when you're thirsty. I will just empathize with your thirstedness, And yeah. You're super great at fixing things. He's a fixer. When you're a hammer, everything's a nail. So he's working on, as I am also working on.
Hammering better.
Right, hammering better, more effectively, solving it faster. Okay, so I just want to give credit to his 3 friends who they saw him from far off and freaked out. And then they still engaged and said, we will go and sit with him. And then they sat for 7 days, which is the number of completion. So they sat for what is considered a full season of time in that person's grief and sorrow to just be supportive. So that's super impressive, right? I think it is super impressive. I don't think I've ever done anything quite like that. And then Job starts talking, right? So they let him speak first. They wait, and then Job starts talking after a full season of time, and he says, may the day perish on which I was born, meaning I wish I had never been born, and the night on which it was said, a male child is conceived. May the day be darkness, may God above not seek it, nor the light shine upon it. See, the blessing that we hear? May the Lord's grace shine upon you, right? So this is the antithesis of the blessing that we hear so often in the New Testament. And may God not seek it, nor the light shine upon it. May darkness and shadow of death claim it, meaning claiming the day that he was born. May a cloud settle upon it. May the blackness of the day terrify it. As for that night, may darkness seize it. Now, all of these are illustrations of death. May it not rejoice among the days of the year. May it not come into the number of months. Oh, may the night be barren. And it goes on at length. So I'm not going to read all of it. But basically he's going, why didn't I die at birth? If this is what was going to happen to me, why didn't I die at birth? Why am I in such misery? And then he also says in verse 25, for the thing I greatly feared has come upon me, and what I dreaded has happened to me. Now, anybody familiar with a very common theology that's held today that comes right from this section right here? The thing that I feared has come upon me. The thing that I dreaded has happened to me.
Positive thinking.
Yeah, that if you fear something, you are the cause of it coming upon you. I'm just going to say, I don't believe that. I don't think that Job brought this upon himself, because why? How do we know that Job didn't bring it upon himself?
What we saw in the previous two chapters.
Yes! Okay, I'm going to have you put this up. Because God's proclamation over Job was what? Blameless, upright. But there's a theology that he brought it upon himself because he feared it, and if you fear something, then you will bring upon the catastrophe that you fear. Now, you are totally welcome to believe something different. By the way, I'm going to offend at least everybody once or twice in the process of Job, because you can't journey through Job without being offensive. There's so many different places to land. There are so many. I mean, people have been debating and discussing this for thousands of years. It's not going to be resolved in this tiny group. But what I hope will happen is that we light up questions in your heart that the Holy Spirit wants to answer. Right? Because he always wants to answer every question with what? Relationship. He is not interested in helping us have an answer to a dead question that doesn't really matter. He's always wanting to open us up to the place of relationship and conversation where we can talk about it. That's how he loves to answer us, is relationally. And that's why we live these kind of funny, roaded journeys in life, because he loves to live the process with us. Okay, so let me think about. Yeah, ask a question, Kristen. Yeah.
It's not exciting. But what verse was that theology?
Yeah.
Did it hear?
Thank you. 25. There's so much theology that we carry through from Job. So, Eliphaz, he answers Job. He's the first one to answer Job. And I love this because it's going to set us up for some really interesting, I'm super excited. It's going to set us up for some of the questions that I want us to unwrap that I will tell you is a little bit different than the standard road that most people travel down. So he answers and he says, if one attempts a word with you, will you become weary? Meaning, if I try to talk to you, are you going to get frustrated? Like, I don't know what to really say in this terrible situation, but could I try and say something? And right? We do that, right? So he goes, who can stop themselves from speaking? I mean, I've been here for 7 days, and you have just deplored all of your life and the day that you were born, regretting that you were ever born. Who can stop themselves? Because you have instructed many people, and you have strengthened people with weak hands. Your words have upheld the person who is stumbling, and you have strengthened feeble knees. So what he's basically saying is you are a leader amongst leaders, which we already knew because he was what? The wealthiest man in the East. So he's going, you are the guy that everybody goes to for advice. You are the guy. You are the one that everybody needs to go, and you have helped everyone. But when you suffer, and it comes upon you in verse 5, you are weary. If it touches you, you become troubled. That's a little harsh. Is not your reverence your confidence, and your integrity your ways of hope? Meaning, your challenge is that you're discouraged. Remember, whoever punished being innocent, or where were the upright ever cut off? Now that is a major theological statement that people actually use to quote